everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Rafael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Rafael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Scott, thank you so much for coming on Coaching Call. How are you this morning?
I'm awesome. I'm fabulous, but I'll get better.
Every day, right? Every day we can strive to do so. Scott, you and I have been chatting for a little while, and I'm getting to know you, but man, every time we talk, I feel like I know you more, and I'm super excited for today because I'm going to ask you questions I may have never asked you. And for me, it always stems of how you became so exceptional. Every time we speak, it's like a new layer. You're like this big onion. A new layer is revealed, right? I love it. I love it. I want to start from your childhood. Where were you born? And let's talk about your early childhood. Who influenced you before the age of 10?
Grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I think I came out of the womb selling, quite frankly. My dad was set to speak at the Toastmasters International
Wow.
convention, and so we took an Amtrak train from Milwaukee to Los Angeles. Well, on that trip, I walked up and down the aisles yelling, "Tickets, tickets, who needs tickets?" And people would say, I do. And so I'd scribble on a piece of paper, I'd rip it off, I'd hand it to them. They handed me some change. By the time we got to LA, I had $52 in change.
No way.
And I was 4 years old. So I was selling them tickets to a train they were already on. So, I think part of it was, seeing the work ethic my dad had and everything like that. And then I was blessed. I played 5 sports growing up. And so, all the influences before I was 10, a big part of that were the coaches and the people that I was around that had a desire to become really good at whatever that sport was. So I think that's probably where a lot of that influence came from.
You said 5 sports. What were they?
Football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, track.
Wow. What was your favorite?
It's funny, probably baseball, but I ended up going off and playing Big Ten football. I think I could have maybe fast tracked, professionally in baseball, but I had an incident happen with a coach that, sometimes when you're younger, you don't process things well. And it killed my spark for it for a period of time. Went off to play Big Ten football. But while I was doing that, I actually had a pro softball contract at a time where those things were just becoming available. So I got back into it, but I never stayed in that hardball lane.
Interesting. I'm going back to you selling tickets on the train to people who already paid for tickets. And I'm thinking, wow, I need to borrow somebody's a 4-year-old and get on the train. It's only going to cost me a couple of bucks, and then they can make more money along the way, and we can split it, right? I'm just kidding. But wow, what did your dad think about what you were doing? when you were selling these tickets?
Well, I just, it was one of those things. I think that I probably saw the conductor or whomever at that time going and punching tickets and doing their thing. And so I said, well, I can do that. And so, um, I don't know exactly how it started. I just, I have laughed about this many times with my sister, who's 11 years older. And, so here I am 4, she's 15, and she's watching me do this. So like I said, we've laughed about it many times since, but that she's actually the one, she goes, I think you came out of the womb selling. So I'll take it.
Yeah. So playing sports, how did that make you a better salesperson?
Well, the discipline and the fundamentals, the basics. In fact, my latest book is all about going back to basics and fundamentals. And a big part of it is because of my athletic experience. Um, I was very fortunate. I always had really good coaches. I didn't have the most well-known coaches in the formative years. But I had really, really good coaches. And what they always taught is the basics and the fundamentals. And I think that then translated. I'll give you an example. Somebody asked me about basics and fundamentals a couple of weeks ago on a show. And I said, we just saw it. Saquon Barkley, who has got 40 or 32-inch thighs, running through a cornerback for the Commanders that has a 5-inch forearm. And you're trying to tackle a 32-inch thigh with a 5-inch forearm. That's not fundamentals. That's why you use your shoulder, you break down, you use your entire body, right? Now, I was very blessed when I went off to the University of Iowa. I got to play for the legendary Coach Hayden Fry. And now he is one of the most known coaches in the game. But it was the same thing. He was so solid in the basics and fundamentals. And I think that that's what it really comes down to when you get into business or coaching or anything like that. We get so smart as we get more mature, code word for older, right? We learn so many new ways. There's so many new gadgets. There's so many new things. And most people me included, tend to stop doing the things that have worked for years in favor of the new things. And what I realized is that people aren't doing the basics. They aren't doing the fundamental things. And if they don't set the foundation, the rest doesn't happen. I mean, think about it. If you were building a building, you're going to start on the 7th floor. It doesn't work that way. You've got to go down into the dirt. You got to dig. You got to put in footings. You got to build from the ground up. And what I'm noticing is far too many people haven't put in the basics. They haven't put in the foundation to be able to build their career from.
I love that you're talking engineering because in order to have a 32-story building or 78-story building, whatever the height of the building is, it's the foundation and the depth of the foundation. So a lot of times when we look at our lives, we think we want to achieve this height, but we haven't built the foundation to get to that height.
Right.
And therefore, I think we need to engineer our lives a little bit stricter. So when things come and tackle us, when things come and try to tear us down, we have that strong foundation to be able to hold us up, right?
Totally agree. I mean, it just is. It's one of those things. I referred to it. I became a licensed life insurance agent at age 18 while I was going to school and playing Big Ten football. And people say, well, why would you take on that load? Well, I was getting a Bachelor of Business Administration degree, marketing major, along with a whole lot of other people getting the exact same major. What was going to make me different? What was going to be my differentiator? And was face-to-face personal communication ability, setting a foundation for my future, right? So I learned how to present with conceptual value-added presentation. There's only two ways to present: price, you got the lowest price, there's only one person who has it, or brand, where you're presenting value and concept, and it's a totally different process. Well, what's so interesting is I learned that and started implementing and executing that at age 18.
Mm. That's a
I
young
have,
age to understand that, right?
well, exactly, but I haven't talked about it since yesterday. And
Mm.
I talked about the fact that, again, people aren't being taught conceptual value added presentation. And conceptual people, people get into sales or they get into whatever, and they have a product, and they get all enamored with the product.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert, nobody cares about your product. The only thing they care about is the benefits they will derive from that product. We're all in the same business, the results business. We have to deliver results. And so, but that in itself is a concept. You have to present with a conceptual value added presentation style. But here's the beauty of it: when you win the concept, you win the product. The
Oh yeah.
product becomes the default.
You're reminding me of the drill, right? It's not we're not selling the drill, we're selling the hole it creates. But if you sell the wrong size drill for a particular requirement of a hole,
Mm-hmm.
then guess what? If you need a 3-foot hole, you can't even do it with a 3-inch drill. You need something that's going to create that. So we need to conceptualize what the results are going to be
Mm-hmm.
for the person we're selling to, right?
Absolutely.
That's where the game changer is, right?
Yeah, the game changer is really starting by walking a mile in their shoes and really understanding what's in it for them. Why would they make this decision? I mean, I've asked people, one of the questions I train people to ask is, what would make purchasing this product be the easiest decision you've ever made in your life? Well, if they give you the answer to that, that's where your presentation lies, right? In other words, if I knew I could get total peace of mind and I wouldn't have to buy another one in the future, and they give you a laundry list of what would make it easy,
Right.
then you make it easy, right? You do those things, right? So the reality is people make presentation and sales and everything much harder than it needs to be, quite frankly. And I work to demystify the process overall. If you don't like the word sales, fine. We get that out of your head. We get you to reframe it. But in essence, everything is a sale. Every time I say something to you that I offer up for your consideration, you analyze what I say, you evaluate what I say, and then you respond. If you agree with me, that's a sale. If you disagree with me, now you're selling me. I mean, the point is, every conversation is a sale. That's why I don't get up, I don't respond to it. I just do it, because the reality is we're all selling everybody every minute of every day. So the best thing I have found is simply demystify it and get people to not fear it.
I love that concept because, and you're right, in every transaction, if you will, there is a sale process, and one person is selling and the other one is buying, but somebody's always buying. But the question that we have to ask is, are you ready to buy today? Right?
Yeah,
Hello
exactly.
from China, guys. Hi, Dennis. How
Hey,
are
Dan.
you? Thank you. Thank you for joining us from China. And when we consider relationships, when we consider everything, you talked earlier about how important communication was. Tell me about the sales pitches or strategy that we use in relationships, because in order to get somebody to go out with you on a date, wasn't that a sale?
Absolutely. I mean, that's actually one of the ways I did this talk, Sell More with Less Effort, last week at a live event. And I said, we're all in sales every minute of every day. That's a pretty dramatic statement. I'd expect you to make me prove it. Okay, prove it. I will. Okay. How many of you have ever been on a date? You made a sale. How many of you have ever put a kid to bed? You made a sale. How many of you are married? You're better at this than you think. I mean, you were the product, right? So the point is that that's why it needs to be demystified, and kind of the heat behind it needs to be taken away. I think it's hilarious. I train a lot in the holistic disciplines, chiropractic, acupuncture, massage therapy, and they go, well, I'm a holistic practitioner. I don't sell. Well, if you don't sell, you don't have a business. So the fact of the matter is you do sell, you just haven't classified it that way right now. So again, we work to reframe it as much as anything, right? And again, I think the point is when you demystify it and you take the resistance against the word or the process away, I mean, it just becomes easier. All we're doing is communicating a position for somebody else to consider. Webster's definition says a sale is the exchange of a product, good, or service for an amount of money or its equivalent. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a formal definition and absolutely true. I created my heart-centered selling definition, which is education through communication without manipulation. In other words, as a salesperson, we're actually a teacher. We're educating people. How are we doing that? We're communicating the features, advantages, and benefits our products, goods, and services have to offer that solve their needs, wants, and desires. So when you put that all together, it's about communicating. Classically, what I do is I identify problems, provide solutions. It's 4 words. But people try to make it a whole lot more words than that.
They complicate things.
Exactly.
I'm still thinking about you at 18, you're working, you're playing at a high level. Not too long ago, I watched a show called, I think, Prime Coaching or Prime, and it was Sanders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great football player, and he's now the coach of Colorado, right?
Yep.
And one of the things that he said is, I want to make sure that these kids understand the value that they're bringing and the fact that football is not their end.
Yes.
It's a means to gain something, but they still need to be smart enough to go out and get a job or a career or become an entrepreneur, whatever it is that they want to pursue. But that's an important aspect. Did anybody tell you or share with you that that was an important aspect, or did you figure that out on your own?
Well, I'm sure it was imparted probably by numerous people. What I felt is if I had personal face-to-face communication ability, I was going to have a leg up with people who simply had the degree. I was going to have the degree. They were going to have the degree. But if I could talk to people, if I could create relationships, if I could ask questions, if I could do active listening, if I could do all the things that it takes to really communicate with people, I would have a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Well, as it turned out, I came out of school at a time where jobs were not available to college graduates. It just was kind of there weren't any out there in the economy at that time. But I had 7 job offers when I came out of school, which then gave me choice. And I could then pick my path because I had choice. I didn't have to take anything, or I didn't have to do things I didn't want to do. I was able to do the things that I chose to do. And so again,
I love that because I'm sorry to interrupt, but man, let us just absorb what you just said, right? Before you go on, because I'm loving this. You had choice, but it wasn't because of your looks.
hey,
And
easy.
you're a good looking guy. Don't get me wrong. I understand that part. But what I'm listening to, it was because of your communication skills, and it
Mhm,
was because of your actions.
mhm.
So I'm sorry I interrupted, but please continue.
No. What the one thing that I figured out is that one of the things that I teach and coach on is you have to have a USP or a series of USPs, and USP stands for unique selling proposition. If you are the exact same as something else, it's probably going to come into price. And if it comes into price, it's the lowest price with the most things. So
Mm.
mine is $49 and has four things. Yours is $49 and has six things. Six things is better than four things. The price is the same, so they win. That's the problem with price. Now it just becomes this thing battle, right?
Right.
Well, when you're adding value, there are the unique selling propositions. I came out and I had the ability to be able to communicate. So therefore, people didn't have to train me up in that, which meant I could deliver value to them more ways faster than if I didn't have that. And that's what I think the disservice that has been done to some of the younger generations is technology is wonderful. AI as an example. Let's put it out on the table. AI ain't going away. It's got tremendous attributes. It's wonderful. But there's a few things AI will never have and never be. It will never be human. It will never have empathy. It will never have compassion. It will never have the fact of being a human being. So, as a human being going up against AI, if we look at it that way, what is my USP? That I'm a human being. So therefore, it says even stronger in this day and age, you need to show compassion. You need to show empathy. You need to do things that are uniquely human. Is that being taught? Not really. And
Not,
that's kind of
not at
one of the
all.
recognitions that I've made is jumping behind technology is wonderful, but if you jump completely behind technology, you've literally lost your unique selling proposition and what makes you the best choice to be of service to somebody else.
I love that. I have two questions for you. One is a question comment. You talked earlier about active listening,
Mhm.
and then you talked earlier also about when somebody tells you what they want. How important is active listening at that point in a sales presentation, whether it's a pitch to a board, or pitch to one person, or pitch to a couple? And then the other question, what was the job you accepted? You had seven offers.
What so um, let me address that first. So because I was in the life insurance business at a young age, I had offers to stay at that company or three other insurance companies. And even though I was good at it, it's weird when you're 18 to 21 years old And I was talking to these really old people. They were like 40, right?
So old.
They were so old, right? And I was talking death benefits to them. And it was, while I was good at it, it wasn't resonating with me as much to continue on with it. Now, had I continued on with it, I'd probably be a billionaire and the rest would be history, but that's a whole nother story. But it's one of those things. I got great training because of that. So then I had Shell Oil, multi-billion-dollar company, IBM, and Manor Refrigeration, $500 million company. Well, I didn't think IBM Salesforce at that time was blue suit, white shirt, red tie, every day. That's what it's highly disciplined, whatever. And I don't know that I was that highly disciplined. I was pretty disciplined. I don't know that I was that disciplined.
Right.
And so I went between Shell Oil, multi-billion dollar, and a Manor Refrigeration, $500 million. And there were a number of things then. At $500 million, first of all, I could stay in the city I went to college in to start my career. So that was one thing. I had a girlfriend there. So that was one thing. And the other thing is, I felt like I could rocket to the top of a $500 million company significantly faster than I could rocket to the top of a multi-billion-dollar company, which is ultimately what I ended up doing. I was a national sales trainer at 25. I was the youngest field sales manager at 26. I was the youngest divisional manager at 29. So I rocketed through the top of the company. I was in the highest field position by age 29. Did that, came down, opened up. Well, the funniest part was that I went to work in Amana. I was able to stay in Iowa City for the first year. They transferred me to Chicago, and I was, had helped build Chicago, was about to take over Chicago. And they said, we'd like you to open up a new division. And I said, great opportunity. Well, when it came down to Amana and Shell, I said, I could stay at Amana and rocket to the top, and Shell, I'd be down in Texas. Who the heck would ever want to live in Texas? So I go to work for Amana, 6 years in Chicago, and then I open up a division in Dallas, Texas, of which I've now lived here 35 years. So
Look at that.
it's
Who wants to live there?
Who wants to live here? So it's funny how things happen, but the point of it all is that, I took a path where I could rocket to the top. I did. And then corporate America changed, which then caused me to make modifications, consulting and going out on my own and doing a variety of things. And then 20 some years ago, becoming a professional speaker and trainer full time, because that's truly my love.
Okay. So tell me about the active listening part.
The active listening part is active listening. Too many times in sales presentations, salespeople work to kind of paint you into a corner. They're trying to get you to answer their questions to move you into what they feel is a proprietary situation, so that they can ask you the closing question to encourage you to take action. Okay. Active listening, on the other side, is simply asking questions to learn about people and create relationship. So there's no purposeful direction you're trying to take anybody. So therefore, I ask you a question, you give me an answer, I pick out a word, a concept, or a phrase from that answer, create a new question, send it back to you. And you then answer that. I do the exact same. And it's funny, I was training actually a Fortune 250 company at the time, and I was teaching the Salesforce active listening. And one of the guys said, well, I believe it would, if I asked so many questions, it would sound like an interrogation. And I said, oh, really? What would make it feel like an interrogation? Well, if I felt like I was pinned to the wall, I said, is our conversation going in such a way that you feel you're being pinned to the wall? No, it's very nice. I said, really? What makes it nice? He goes, well, you're just smiling, you're friendly, your demeanor, you're not rushing us. Now, how does that make you feel? Well, it's very comforting. Anyway, the other salespeople in the room started doing a tally board. And when we got to 52 questions, the whole room broke up. And I said, so now let's take a look at what just happened. I just asked you 52 questions. Did it feel like an interrogation? He goes, no, I think you're a really nice guy. And so the point is, do I suggest doing that, to that length? No, I was trying to make a point in front of the room that if my tone, my pacing, the way I delivered those questions was stern and like, come on, get on with it, give me an answer, it might feel that way. But otherwise, it's just informational. And so active listening is huge. When somebody says to you, the thing that people don't realize is the person that you're presenting your offer to, whatever that offer is, the person who knows whether they'll take action or not take action is them. Why don't you just ask them? I ask very complex questions like, what would allow you to take action? Well, if I could have it by tomorrow,
I love the follow-up questions to a question so that they can start to understand themselves a little bit, I think, right? In order to make that decision, because sometimes you have to say, is there anybody else that we need to talk to or be in the room with us? Especially, one of the things that very early on, I realized that a lot of salespeople, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or right, if they're talking to a couple, they don't talk to the woman, the female part of the couple.
Big mistake.
And it's a huge mistake, I found. And what winds up happening, or they'll only talk to the female, and then all of a sudden, the male is getting a little like he's sitting in his chair, he's doing what's going on here, right? He's getting all a little bit crazy because he doesn't feel valued. So you talked earlier about the value proposition, but we need to make each individual feel valued as well, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why, I teach a lot of formulaic questions that you could share. So if I said to you, what would, if you could improve one thing in your situation, what would it be? And you give me that answer. And then I go, Stacy, same question to you. If you could improve one thing, what would be the most important for you? Sometimes they've never had this conversation. For him, it's, I want it to be cost effective and last forever. And for her, it's, I want it to be pretty and delivered tomorrow. Those are two pretty different things, right? And so now, again, the person who knows what will allow them to take action or not take action is them. And so instead of guessing at it, simply ask them. And again, I think people try to get really tricky and like, I got to I got to uncover this and I got to get them to disclose it. No, you just ask them. One of the questions that I said to a guy in a coaching session one time, he said, I really need a job. I'm calling this company for the second interview today. I think I got the job, but I'm not sure. He goes, how would you proceed? And I said, ask him one question. And he said, what's the question? What would make hiring me be the easiest decision you've ever made in your professional career?
Great question.
And if, if it's ethical and moral, do it. Right. If the guy says, if you could be the work tomorrow and make sure that you're on time all the time, you now know exactly what his decision process is. And you say, I'm in, let's go. And so the guy called
reliability. They're looking for reliability, right?
Well, that's exactly it. So the guy called me back later that afternoon. He goes, I just want to thank you. He said that question secured the position for me. So again, I think those are the things that make your heart feel good. Those are the things that it's like, that's why you do what you do, because, you help somebody be able to fulfill their vision, and you actually help the company too by getting them a good quality person because he understood what to say.
Scott, when you made the decision to stop working for someone else and become a trainer and a speaker, a professional speaker, what was the catalyst for you to truly say, this is my passion, this is what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do it for someone else. I'm going to do it for me?
Well, I think part of it is, I didn't feel like I was achieving all I could do inside the box, right? I mean, like I said, I rocketed through the structure and all those things, and obviously had to do some good things, or that would have never happened. But I felt like I had the ability to help more people. I had the ability to, but I wasn't getting the opportunity to. And so it became, God's granted me talents and capabilities that I don't know that I'm using as fully as I can. And I want to do that. And so it was a big part of opening up and saying, okay, I'm going to go out. And I mean, I already do a lot of this in the corporate environment. Gosh, just think if I could do it across multiple corporations, what could happen? So that was kind of the driving force. Oop, you're muted.
There I am. I'm not muted now. Thank you. Nikki Mason, who joined us, and then also Emilio Roman. Thank you for joining us. It's an incredible conversation I am having with my good friend, Scott. Scott is, I want to get into your professional speaking. You've spoken at, I don't want to put a number on it because you have the number, but it's incredible what you have accomplished in such a short time. And I say short time because you have so much more to give, and you are doing it. And you, my friend, are an example to so many people who want to even pursue training and communication and public speaking. So would you tell us, how many stages have you been on and all that good stuff?
I lost count a long time ago, but the way that I answered is over 3,000 live events in my career. And that number just keeps on growing. Last week was 3 live events, 3 online events in 5 days. So again, for me, when you're sharing messages that are serving other people, I'm not going to say it's easy, because I don't want to say that there's not work involved in it. There is. In order to share expertise and wisdom and knowledge, you've had to experience a whole bunch of stuff. I have. The whole concept of if you're going to be an expert, you got to have over 10,000 hours in it. I don't even want to count the hours, from that side. Right. On one side, I don't want to count the hours. On the other side, it's rest assured. I was doing an online presentation last night, and we were talking about handling objections. That happened to be the topic last night. And they said, how can we, we're throwing you all sorts of objections. You didn't know what's coming. You've handled every one of them, and like none of them, you're unflappable. Nothing bothers you. And I said, it's because I've done it. There are very few objections that I haven't heard. There are very few objections that I haven't answered many, 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 many times. And so it's like anything. If you want to become proficient, Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts didn't throw one football to be able to do what they've done. They've thrown thousands of footballs, and they've thrown them in different positions and doing different things. And that's what drills are. That's what practice is. People say, how'd you get so good on stage? I said, I used to talk to myself in a mirror. I watched my dad do that, right? As he was speaking for Toastmasters, and he used to speak for the United Way to get people to support the foundation of the United Way. But I used to watch him before he'd go off to speaking events. He would stand in front of a mirror, full-length mirror, and he would present to him. And I saw it and I said, hey, that's a pretty cool way to do it. You can see where your eyes are. You can see your expressions. You can do all this different stuff, right? So I've done a lot of talking to myself.
I love it. I love it. I find that's so helpful, because the question, as you train people, and I'm sure you've actually helped people with this, is, would you want to hear yourself speak?
That's a great one. Are you providing value to the audience? In fact, the third live talk I did last week was delivering value in all you do. And that's exactly what's it about. Are you just reiterating something that somebody else has said, or are you taking and putting your expertise on top of it? Have you studied enough to really be a topic expert? Have you done those things? And again, you and I have talked about this. I've been blessed: speaker, trainer, author, coach, consultant, media host, 6 things that I've reached a pretty good level of proficiency at. The question is, should I be doing all those things? And I made the decision at the end of last year, what really makes me happy and what I really love is training and speaking. And again, being on a podcast like this is in essence training and speaking. But I love it, and I have a desire to do more of it. And so I decided from 2025 on, I was going to focus on training and speaking, even though I can do other things.
Right.
I think I can serve more people doing these things. And so there's greater focus on that.
Last week you did 5 events.
6.
Beautiful. I'm sorry. 6.
Hey, come on. Don't
knock it.
Don't knock it.
Here's the thing that really is so inspirational about you, is that you had your dad, who you watched, who you realized that what he was doing is exactly what you needed to start doing. At what point did you say, I got to do what my dad's doing? How old were you? Was it before you went on your first stage? And tell me about that first stage also, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. I saw my dad. I don't know that I realized how much influence he had until years later. And it wasn't like I went into speaking because of him, but I saw the effect that he had and the positive effect that he had and anything. So when I made the decision, as a matter of fact, when I made the decision to go into speaking professionally full time, I looked at my dad speaking for years and years and years in behalf of the United Way. And I actually asked my mom, I said, why did he do that? He never got paid. He never made a penny speaking. And she said it was his love, and that was his way of serving.
Wow.
And so it was, that was part of it, is understanding that I could contribute. And then I put the word professional ahead of it, so I also could get paid. I'm a professional speaker. I'm not a public speaker. Public speakers speak in public. I'm a professional speaker that gets paid to speak in public. but the point is that I had a desire to go into the industry, the speaking industry, the professional speaking industry. And so the first decision I made is to find the finest speaking mentor I possibly could, because if I was going to do this as a business, it's no longer it wasn't a hobby, it was a business. You've got to learn how to do this and become proficient at it, because there's a lot of people that flap their gums. There's not a whole bunch of them that are all professional speakers. There's a lot of people that have never learned the craft, and the craft is about gaining efficiency while on stage in a defined amount of time, right? It's getting really being able to deliver a message that lands. And again, anybody who has a message that they want to share, I am all for you and back. And I would just encourage you to get the training and the knowledge necessary to do that extremely well. Your heart will be much more served if you do that. One of the first, so I got trained, and there's a couple of things that my speaking mentor, a couple of quotes that I attribute to my speaking mentor that are just brilliant. Very simple, but brilliant. And the first one is, if you want to become a great speaker, speak. You just got to do it. It's very simple. It's very simple, but you got to do it, right? It's like if you want to be a great martial artist, you better hit a bag. You better train, right? And then the other one is, after I went through the courses and I started speaking professionally and doing that, and I said, John, I look forward to the day that I can be as good as you. I really want to do what it takes to be as good as you. And he looked at me and he said, Scott, if you want to do what I do, do what I do.
That's it. It's simple, right?
It's brilliant, right? Why are you working to reinvent the wheel? Been there, done that. I got the t-shirts. Do what I do and you'll have very similar success. And that's what I did. First paid professional event, I happened to be at an event up in Toronto. Had actually 2 speaking spots that day. Jack Canfield, Mark Victor Hansen were the keynotes to that event. They came to hear both my talks. I was honored by that. Afterwards, they came up to me and they said, actually thumped me in the sternum. And they said, son, are you doing this professionally? And I said, well, I'm working to do that. And they said, why aren't you doing this full time? And I said, well, I got a job. And Mark Victor Hansen said, that's a horrible answer. And I said, I got a job is a horrible answer? He goes, yeah. God's granted you talents and capabilities that most people don't have. And if you don't use those talents and capabilities, you're robbing humanity. You're cheating humanity. In fact, you're being selfish. And that's when Jack said, son, you need to be out here doing this professionally, sharing messages of hope and inspiration and helping others to learn to do the same. And that's what I did.
That's powerful. That is powerful, my friend.
Thank you. I'm so honored to this day from that happening. And in fact, I was on a TV show last 2 weeks ago, and I sent the show to Jack. I felt this pull, go ahead and send the show. And Jack sent me just such a gracious, wonderful message back. Made me cry then. It's about to make me cry now. Big old tough.
I got to tell you, big old tough guy who plays football, right? So it was interesting when you spoke of your dad. You got emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you get emotional? I know that's a deep question, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
I am happy to answer it, because I don't think any of this is my interpretation of it all. I don't believe any of this is an intellectual or tactical process. Yes, it takes intellect, it takes knowledge, it does. But I think it's a heartfelt, relational, strategic process. And so, there are people who can spout words. That's very tactical. But to make those words land with feeling, with empathy, with compassion, with encouragement, with hope, with inspiration, that's dropping down into a different place. And so when I'm grateful, I never had the conversation about why he did what he did with my dad. I just watched it. And then, many years later when my dad passed, I did have the conversation with my mom because that was in the period that I had decided to, do this full time. And, my daughter graduated from high school at the same time. My mom was 85. And she comes to my daughter's, she flies in from Florida for my daughter's high school graduation. She's got a new gold watch on. And I said, Mom, what's the new gold watch? I mean, what's with the bling? You're not the bling kind of person. And she goes, oh, that Florida hospitals just gave it to me for 25 years of volunteering. Wow. I said, you started when you were 60? She goes, doesn't everyone? It just kind of, it sets the whole path in place, right? And so you don't realize how much is modeled for you. What have you observed? What have you done? Which is why I'm absolutely committed to train and speak and model the possibilities, the hope, the inspiration, when somebody says, how you doing? Fabulous. And I'll get better. To create that little, wow, that's different. Yeah, it's supposed to be different. Number one, it's how I say it every time, but it's supposed to be different to provide some encouragement to, there's enough stuff in the world that's tough. It doesn't all have to be tough. Well, Scott, it must be so easy for you. Are you kidding me? I mean, the reason I think I'm so committed to encourage other people is because every time I encourage them, I encourage me too, right? Is you work to push through the various things that are going on. My platform is to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet. We're supposed to love each other. We're supposed to lift each other up. We're supposed to have a wonderful living relationship. Well, if I can help educate people who then want to educate other people on that, I've done some pretty good stuff. So I'm pedaling as fast as I can, man.
I love that. Actually, before, I know we're getting, like, we have like 7 or 8 minutes left. Before we finish, I wanna talk to you about the book that you've written, or many books. I'm not sure, but you can clarify that. What was the thought behind writing a book?
Yeah, the latest book is entitled 90-Second Success Tips. And the title really is 104 Tips to Sell More with Less Effort. It's the material that we use to take a client in the good old days from 8 million to 100 million in about 5.5 years. So we, in essence, 10x their business. And what I realized is I had all this material that wasn't really out in the marketplace at a time where, number one, people would love to 10x their business, but the foundation of the book, the 104 Tips to Sell More with Less Effort, was the basics, the fundamentals. It's 104 little things. It's not 104 major things. That's why it's 90 seconds success tips. It's something that within 90 seconds, 2 minutes at the most, you can consume, digest, apply, and build on. And so, again, That's the concept behind it. The first tip is when you meet somebody new, capture their interest and attention. So all of a sudden you're introduced to somebody. How could you capture their interest and attention? You could say something crazy like, "I'm fabulous and I'll get better," because it stops them down. It now captures their interest and attention. Second tip is be in tune. God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth. We're supposed to listen twice as much as we talk. How many people typically do that? Not any. The fact is they have, the third one is use simple language. Stop talking over the top of people. Stop being so authoritative and technical. And you can always get more technical, but if you start technical and you lose them, they're gone forever. So start at a 5th grade level. So again, the new book is really about the basics, because what I saw in the people I was coaching, teaching, meeting, and I don't know if I've shared this with you, but I was at a networking event, 100 people there. And I'm kind of standing off while people were talking, and I was just kind of observing the crowds to look who I was going to go talk to. Woman comes in, stands next to me, and she says, "Oh my God, I'm already overwhelmed." And I'm the only one she's talking to. And I kind of looked at her with a puzzled look, and I go, "What?" She goes, "I don't even know where to start." And so I smiled at her. And all of a sudden she goes, "Oh my God, why are you smiling at me?" I said, "I'm simply answering your question." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "You ask, where do you start? You start with a smile, just like I did. Because when I smiled at you, then you asked me the question, why am I smiling at you? To which I'm giving you an answer. By definition, they now call this a conversation." She goes, "Wow, you're really good at this." I said, "You're right." She goes, "Can I have your card?" I said, "Absolutely." But I said, "Can I ask what you do?" She goes, "I'm a financial planner." And I said, "There's 100 people over there that you have the opportunity to learn about. And I'm not suggesting all 100 are prospects for you, but a couple probably are. And you're overwhelmed without ever talking to them." It was part of a recognition that here we have people, she was probably 40. We have people in the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, millennials, and even Gen X that have never learned the basics. And I said, "That's it. I'm circling back. I'm teaching the basics. I'm a unicorn. I'm a combination of new school AI, use technology, do all that, with old school boots on the ground, face-to-face conversation, belly-to-belly business. I'm a unicorn."
Love it. You're a great unicorn, by the way.
Well,
Let me ask you, if you can have a conversation tomorrow with your dad, what would you ask him?
Well, the first thing I'd do is thank him for the man he was. Worked for the same company for 46 years, from the time he was 17 till he was 63. He was a rock, you know. I think I would ask him just what gave you the foundation to do things like that, right? To do things that are unheard of in this day and age. That's why I went into corporate America out of college. It's what I saw modeled. That's what you do, right? Until you don't. And so I would ask him, I know it wasn't always easy. What was your driving force to keep pushing through and to keep making things happen? And I think it'd be a very interesting answer.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you 100%. Scott, what a delight you are, my friend. I am just thrilled that we're connected. We have about 30, 45 seconds. Tell us what somebody can. You're a trainer, you're a public speaker, a professional public speaker. You get paid to get on a stage, you get paid to train people, you train from a single person to a group of people to many people. What can somebody expect when they go to your website scottschilling.com. What can they expect from you? You have 30, 45 seconds. It's your infomercial, my friend.
What you can expect is results. That's why you're looking to work with anybody anyway. I've got years of knowledge, wisdom, expertise, experience, and have been told I translate and transfer that quite well. So again, working with me is not about me. Working with me is about you and you achieving the results you truly desire in your life. And you can reach me at scott@scottschilling.com, or the website is scottschilling.com. I don't hide very well. I'm here to be of service to you. So please reach out.
Yes, yes. Everybody, do me a favor. What a great show we had today. Scott, you made this possible for me. Thank you so much. Everybody, do me a favor. Share this show. There's so much information that Scott shared with us that can benefit you greatly. It can benefit your business. It can benefit your neighbors. It can benefit your community. But you need to take action for that to happen. And share it. And listen to it maybe many times, because there's so many nuggets that you shared with us, Scott. Really appreciate you, my friend.
I
Everybody
appreciate
have
you.
all right. Thank you. Everybody have yourself an exceptional day. Make it a great one. Scott, my friend, what can I say? Blessed to know you.
Blessed to know you as well. Thank you all.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.